Hello, everyone, and welcome to another in a series of videos on the subject of numerology. Thank you for joining me today. I am Frank, and I am ImUpToMystic for you. Here to spread the love, spread the wisdom, hopefully spread the insight, more on this amazing subject, the language of numerology, the power of numbers, the vibrations in our birth path and our name, and giving us clues to our reason for being here in this incarnation, and the experiences we're supposed to learn and grow from and help us on our journey in this life. And I welcome you to our show. This is a video that I apologize for not getting to sooner. I've had a couple of emails from some people who wanted to know more about the subject. The subject of today's video is the pinnacles and the challenges, which are part of the birth path numbers, okay? The birth path being the month you're born in, the day you're born on, and the year you're born in, which forms the total of them, forms your destiny number or the secret code, not secret, it's a public code, but it is a code to unlock the understanding of what you're here in this incarnation to experience, to learn, to grow from, and to master. And also to challenges to face so that you can overcome them and strengthen your spiritual resolve on the journey through this particular incarnation. And of course, as I've said in other videos, numerology is based on the whole notion of reincarnation, the fact that the soul is eternal, but that we incarnate in physical form in different lifetimes across the timeline of humanity, and not just of humanity, of the whole cosmos, because you can incarnate on other planets and other dimensions and other things too. But this one here, since you're here with me, we're doing this together on what I call Outpost Earth for this incarnation. So I hope what I'm going to present to you will help illuminate some of those aspects. Now, for other information about numerology, the basics of it, how to write your own chart, talk about the birth month, the birthday of the year, and those are called cycles of your life. Those are in other videos, which I encourage you to go check out on my YouTube channel. But this one today, we're talking specifically about items called challenges and pinnacles. And they basically are high points, and the challenges obviously are roadblocks or red flags that need to be understood in the transit of our life through the birth path, okay? And like we move from one energy vibration from the birth month to the next one, which is the birthday, and through the birth year. And the total of those adds up to what we call our destiny number. But along those paths are high points of opportunity in those cyclical maneuvers, and also the challenges. I go like this because to arrive at the one, you subtract. The challenge is you subtract numbers, and for the pinnacles, you add numbers. So let me put some the fundamental graphic that I have here. This was from my previous video, and obviously it's very state-of-the-art. I've used this in my numerology readings for decades, and so it's just easier and simpler for me. If you go to the video I created about your personal chart, you will see this same chart. It's just an example chart using a name, Thomas James Evans, with an imaginary birth date of June 15th, 1966, which you can see there. And I've already explained in those videos about how those multiple numbers like 15 and 1966 are reduced in numerology. You always reduce to a single digit in order to get to the essence of that experience. And then you leave those numbers in each of those positions, and each one of those is a cycle of time that you transit that energy. So in your birth month, you transit the birth. If you were born in June, you transit the energy of the number 6 from birth to a certain determined amount of time. And you arrive at that by subtracting your destiny number right over here. The destiny number, here in this case, it's 7, from the number 36. And that's the starting point. You subtract 7 from 36, which leaves us with 29, which means that the duration of your first cycle is from birth to age 29. Then the middle cycle of 15, which is reduced to a 6, is the second transit of a number 6. But obviously it's a little more nuanced because it's at a later stage of life, and that you've already experienced it as a first cycle. Now you're re-experiencing it in a more complex manifestation. because it's the middle cycle of life, the adult cycle of life, where it's the field of action out in the world. All right. So in this case, with the 15th birthday, you reduce that again to the number 6, like I said. So you transit that. Now, the middle cycle of life always lasts 18 years. So we leave off with age 29 for the first cycle. That means for the next 18 years to age 47 or so, 48, you're going to be on the number 6 for the second cycle of life, in this case, for this birthday. And you would use your own birthday numbers to calculate it. And then for the final cycle of life, you reduce the year number to a single digit. So 1966, in this example, reduces to a 22, which is also a master number, which adds a nuance. And while we normally leave those intact because it can imply a more elevated experience during that time, or it can still reduce to its more basic essence. It depends on how the individual manifests that number. But for the sake of our video, we've reduced it to the digit 4. So when we add up what's called the destiny, which is the total of those 3 cycle numbers, and by the way, that last cycle ends from the end of the middle cycle, which we said was about 47 or 48 in this case, and that goes from 49 all the way through to death. So that's how the cycle energies work. Now, during these cycles, you have what you see down here on the bottom line here. It says Pinnacles and Challenges. Now, I've created another graphic that I'm going to show you how you calculate that and what that means, all right? Basically, it's the same knowledge of using what the number values of experience and spiritual growth and awareness are about in every place they show up on the chart, whether in the alphabet use of the letters of your name, or in the numerical values of the birth path, all right? So it always has that same essential meaning. It's just that the context and the nuance of the energy in that position, okay, tells you a little bit more about the factors influencing the transit of that energy, okay? So that's what this is all about. The Pinnacles and Challenges are more nuanced understandings. Again, when you're making a chart, you're doing it in very rudimentary ways, and it takes a while, a lot of experience in practice, working and understanding the nuances of the presence of numbers, the absence of numbers, the position of numbers. So that all helps understand more and more and gives you more insight into your particular journey, or the journey of whoever's name you are and birthday you want to do a chart about, okay? So anyway, with that fundamental stuff out of the way, let me use this basic information from this, and I've made a separate graphic that I'm going to put up on the screen now, and we'll go through it together, and it'll explain what the Pinnacles and Challenges mean. You already understand cycles now, that it's the transit of the numbers during 3. It's like, imagine like gears of a clock. These are the bigger gears of the clock, or rooms of a house, okay? I like to think of like the total destiny number is the address of the house you live in this lifetime. And each of the cycles are separate rooms in that house at that address, okay? And that they color the quality of the experience, or they kind of nuance and give the energy, the power, the poignancy, the quality of experience that has to be encountered. And whether they appear in your name or not, you're going to have those experiences to confront over the transit of your lifetime. And so if you're open to understanding it, you will benefit from the knowledge about that energy, or to the degree you resist, it could be a barrier toward your growth and your evolution on this journey. So anyway, since we talked about the cycles, I'm going to pause the video just for a second so I can put up this graphic that we can share, and then I'll talk more about the Pinnacles and Challenges. So hold on just a second. Okay, so you can see on the screen in front of you now that I have made a little cleaner version so it's a little easier to read, that we have taken the birthday, 6, 6, and 4, 16, 7 destiny. All right, I've reduced that here because that's going to be our point of reference in understanding Pinnacles and Challenges. Let me start with the Pinnacles first, okay? Pinnacles are considered high points of opportunity. During the transit of cycles, the Pinnacles are also in effect, along with the Challenges, and they go simultaneously. The energies are concurrent and simultaneous. So that Pinnacles, cycle numbers, and challenge energy numbers are all at work, creating opportunity and also perceived barriers. I say perceived because how you respond to them will mean how you effectively transit and grow and learn from challenges, and also reach opportunities, the high points of opportunities expressed through the pinnacle numbers. So here we go. Let me explain the pinnacles first of all. On the birthday, June 15th, 1967, that we used for this example, and it's already reduced here, if you go up to the pinnacles, you'll see the word first. It says the first pinnacle of this birth path is arrived at by adding 6 plus 6, which equals 12 and reduces to 3. And that is done by adding the birth month and the birthday. Then you reduce it to a single digit, which is the 3. So for this birthday, June 15th, which is 6, 1967, the first pinnacle is a 3. Which it transits from birth to age 29, because like I said, we subtract the destiny number 7 from 36, you get 29. So in a 3 pinnacle, it means that during the first cycle of life, the first 6 of June, the energy of optimization of experience will add up to number 3, which means that the high point of experience will come through the expression of 3, which in this case, number 3 is the number of expression, creativity, showmanship, artistic efforts, socialization. So on this birth path, it means that the high point to be experienced during that first cycle will be the number 3, which means life will present you with opportunities through learning responsibility of the number 6, but the opportunity to take on obligations and responsibility will be manifested in opportunities that will present themselves in social situations, opportunities to express the inner understanding of life, to be a bit of a showman, to have a creative way of bearing the burdens of what is put on by life, and finding ways to express your understandings through creative expression. Now, the thing about the number 3 is also, and especially as a first cycle, see, again, this is all nuance, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds about this particular way it manifests, but because it ties into all these other elements of the chart. But basically, for the first cycle of this life, the pinnacle number will be 3, which means creative expression will be the high point achieved through the first cycle of the number 6. And again, you can see how you arrive at it by adding the birth and day together. Now, let's go down to the challenges for the first challenge of this same cycle. That is arrived at by subtracting the numbers. So you get pinnacles by adding adjacent numbers. You find the challenge by subtracting adjacent numbers. So for the first cycle, to find out the first challenge, which goes from birth to age 29, you take the number 6 and subtract it from the adjacent number 6. Subtract the higher of the birth month and day from the other number. And in this case, they're the same number. So the first challenge is 0, which means one of two things. It either means no challenge will be in the way to bar the creative expression and fulfillment and achievement and success of that first cycle experience, or it means that every challenge, that everything will be an obstacle, because 0 manifests as either nothing or everything, okay? So if the soul is elevated and the response to the first cycle of experience is positive, it sounds like in this case that would mean that there will be no significant barriers to the fulfillment of the achievement and the realization of the energy, first of all, of the first cycle, but also of the first pinnacle, which is 3, which means a period of beautiful, unencumbered expression, creativity, and also there will be a blessing of protection, because the number 6 is the number of duty and responsibility and obligation, but it also implies a divine protection as well if the responsibilities are met with a positive energy. So in this case, the 0 would signify, in my case, if I were reading it, I would assume it means no challenge rather than all challenges. But in the case of a name where they have all the vibrations in the name, sometimes that can imply that the soul is a very old soul that has experienced every experience and may come to earth and be bored by experience. So in that case, oftentimes challenges can mean everything. It means a lot of obstacles will be thrown in the way just because the person is so familiar, and in order to shake the complacency from an old soul and make them engage again, even though they're experienced through many lifetimes, then life often may throw many challenges and obstacles in their way. But in the case of a person who has many things to learn, who is open to experience and is excited by experience, I think that reading the 0 in this case means more no challenges. So the pinnacle of the first cycle is by adding the two adjacent numbers of birthday and month together. This challenge is arrived at by subtracting it. All right? So that explains the first pinnacle. Now, and the first challenge. The second pinnacle is in this case, is you adding the birthday and the birth year. So you're adding 6 and 4 together. And so you have, for the second cycle of life, you have a pinnacle of 1. All right? So you're adding 6 and 4, it comes to 10, you reduce to 1. You reduce to the single digit, and you get the second pinnacle, which runs from age 30 in this case to 39. All right? So it's a 9-year cycle. All right? 9-year pinnacle. And under a 1 means independence, leadership, isolation, progress, self-realization, self-actualization. So it means that on this birth path and in that second cycle, the first 9 years of that second cycle, because these pinnacles run for 18 years of that middle cycle, because that's what the second cycle runs. So for the first 9 years of that cycle, the energy pinnacle is number 1, which means the high points will be achieved now, moving beyond that first cycle, pinnacle 3, to the new pinnacle 1, means that the person in transit on this one during the second cycle of 6 will find their greatest fulfillment in an independent way and being on their own and being a trailblazer, in standing or taking leadership positions. That's where greatest achievement and fulfillment will come with this number and this particular pinnacle from age 30 to 39 being the pinnacle 1. That will vary on your birth path based on your birth numbers, okay? So we're just using this example. Now, to understand the challenge, we subtract those two numbers. Again, we take the 6 of the birthday and the 4 of the birth year, and we subtract. We take the higher of the two, and since 6 is 4 is higher, that means our second cycle challenge of the first 9 years is a 2, which you can see where it says second, 6 minus 4 equals 2, subtract higher number, second challenge from age 30 to 39. So it's kind of ironic, because here we have a pinnacle is a 1 and the challenge is 2, which means there needs to be a balancing of the masculine energy, which is number 1, and the feminine energy challenge of 2. So it means that if I were reading the chart for this person with this particular pinnacle challenge circumstance, I would say that while the number 1 and independence is the high point, it means also that opportunity, there will be challenges to that independence by this more compromised feminine energy. So the challenge will be having to navigate this 2 number, which is the feminine energy, that might impede the progress of the number 1 energy of the pinnacle. So you could see how the nuance starts coming into play. And you can see how, while it looks like, this is a great opportunity to express myself individually, life will also throw the challenge of having to not forget that you have to compromise and you have to be diplomatic in the progress of the expression of the pinnacle number 1. Because the challenge is going to be that life will throw in circumstances where it may look like monkey wrenches are being thrown in the way of the fulfillment of that particular self-expression. But it isn't. Again, these are all things that need to be understood, that these things we have to harmonize our pinnacles and challenges in order to reap the full benefit of the growth opportunity offered by the life path. So the pinnacle tells you what can be achieved in its most positive form. The challenges tell you what are going to get in the way, but what need to also be mastered and not allowed to be manifesting negatively. Because if it's manifested negatively, the energy and the experiential benefit will be subdued and diminished. So that's the thing about the pinnacles versus the challenges over the course of the cyclic movement of the life on this destiny in this incarnation. So again, that's how it works for the second pinnacle in this particular number. It will be different, obviously, when you do your own numbers or the numbers of other people with different birthdays. Okay? Now, the third pinnacle runs from age 40 to 49. It's the second of the 18 years of the transit of the second cycle of life. And to arrive at the third pinnacle, which again is 9 years and happens after the conclusion of the second pinnacle, you add the first two pinnacle numbers together. So you add the 3 of the first pinnacle and the 1 of the second pinnacle, and you get the third pinnacle number. Okay? So that is, in this case, 3 plus 1 equals 4. So it means that for the third pinnacle, for this birthday, running from age 40 to 49, the number 4 will be in effect, which means that there will be a period of discipline, work, nose to the grindstone. The high point of achievement will come through mastery of pragmatism, discipline, productivity, and focusing in on the realistic aspects of everything that has been learned earlier in life and the movement of life and through career and all other things in adult life will come to fruition and fulfillment through hard work and discipline. That will be the high point, okay, again, for this birth path transit. That's why it's the pinnacle of age 40 to 49, the third pinnacle. So on this chart, I would read it that way, as discipline and hard work is the high point of achievement through the transit of the second part of the second cycle, all right? The second 18 years of this, second 9 years of the 18-year transit of that number 6 in the second cycle position. Now, let's go to the challenge, the third challenge, which also runs concurrently from age 40 to 49, as all the challenges and pinnacles do. They run concurrently with each other. In this case, subtracting is the mechanism by which we arrive at challenges, where addition is the mechanism we use to arrive at the pinnacles. So for the third challenge, which runs from age 40 to 49, during the transit of number 6 in the middle cycle, we subtract 2 from 0, which are the previous two challenge numbers. We subtract the larger of the 2, which is 2 from 0, which means there's another 2 challenge. So on this birth path, if you'll notice, even in the fourth pinnacle, there is going to be another 2 challenge. So the challenge of this life destiny, given these numbers, are going to be 2, the number 2, the feminine vibration, which means that the number 1, which is going to want to dominate, needs to be subordinated and tempered by understanding and mastering the feminine energy, number 2. As it was the case in the second challenge, it's also the case in the third challenge. And that number 2 can either enhance or undermine the energy fulfillment of number 4 in the third pinnacle. Again, the challenge is the counter energy, which is there to butt heads, so to speak, but not to be seen negatively. It's there to engage and to enhance the whole nuanced experience of the transit of those energies of the cycle. The pinnacle and challenges working hand in hand to not only be the high point, but also be the counter challenge point that could produce the roadblock to the fulfillment of the pinnacles and therefore the fulfillment of the transit of the cycle. So again, this is some of the nuanced reading that I would do if I were doing a chart for somebody and trying to explain how they need to understand the transit of their energy during that part and what may be the great opportunity and also the great stumbling block if they allow it to be. So I don't think I need to explain it anymore. I've already expressed number 2, but that's how you arrive at the third challenge as the counterpoint to the third pinnacle. Now, as the final pinnacle and challenge, that's arrived at by incorporating now the year number, which is 4, reduces to 4 on this birth path, 6 plus 6 plus 4, right? to arrive at the pinnacle for that final cycle, which runs, and the pinnacle will also run concurrently with the challenge, with the cycle from age, in this birth path destiny number and with these birth numbers, from age 50 to the time of death. They will be the final numbers. So this person is also transiting a 4 cycle, all right? So the final cycle of life will be a period of discipline, of growth, of productivity, of pragmatism, of nose to the grindstone. So the last part of life will be a very down-to-earth, practical fulfillment of everything that has been learned on the birth paths during the first 2 cycles. And the greatest achievement will come through the fulfillment of that. But the high point will come from, as you see, the 4th pinnacle number is number 1. And you get that by adding now the birth month to the birth year, which reduces to 4. So we get 6 plus 4 equals 10. And we reduce again to a single digit, which is 1. So we have a duplicate pinnacle matching the 2nd pinnacle of 1. We have that as the high point pinnacle of opportunity in the final cycle of life as well. So again, we said the number 1 is the number of independence, of leadership. This person on this birth path probably I would say this person would probably be very engaged with practical endeavors in the final cycle of life and will take some sort of leadership role, whether it be on their own or if it's in conjunction with a partnership in some way, which it could be. If it is partnering, whether it's with another individual or partnering with a company, corporation, or an enterprise or an activity, that means one has to compromise one's ego and will for the sake of harmonizing it with the endeavor in a business arrangement or whatever. It shows that final cycle will be, again, this person is going to learn that their greatest fulfillment will become when they take ownership of their own experience and their own talents and their own knowledge, and they do whatever it is in a personal way where they strike out on their own to create something unique and utterly personal. And it may even manifest in relationships as well. They may find themselves feeling a little bit more isolated, that they may be standing on their own a little more than they'd like to, but it's all in mastering the pragmatism of and a translation of previous experiential numbers and energies into a final fulfillment of pragmatism and independence and personal achievement. So that's that final pinnacle number. And now if we go down to the final challenge number, we arrive at that by subtracting the higher number of the birth month and birth year. And in this case, the birth month number is higher than the birth year. So we subtract 6 from 4, and again, we get the number 2. So the final challenge during the final cycle of life, again, which is kind of ironic because 1 is the masculine principle, 2 is the feminine. So it means that for this individual, the final cycle, while achieving independent success and personal growth on a personal level, has to be balanced with the counter energy, which is the red flag or the roadblock energy, which could derail the fulfillment because it is the feminine energy. So it sounds like a contradiction. I've got to be male and independent and progressive, but I also got to be compromising and feminine, and I've got to be equal in the understanding of the spreading of the energy, in balancing it and harmonizing and being the diplomat and yet I got to be the leader at the same time. So it requires this birth path with these pinnacles and challenges, especially in the final cycle of life, requires the diplomacy and the tact of being strong enough to be the leader and yet sensitive enough to recognize that you can't lead without knowing how to teach people to follow and deserving their following of you. So it means working in harmony with others so that the fulfillment of the will and the ego comes through the harmonization of self with others, whether that other is another person or persons, or that other is a circumstance or an occupation or a corporation or an enterprise or an activity. So but it will lead to fulfillment in a very practical sense if if the number 4 will reach full manifestation and expression through the harmonization of the Pinnacle 1 and the Challenge 2. So, do you see how the pinnacles and the challenges work together and how they transit? And everyone is a nuanced addition to understanding the movement of cycle to cycle to cycle. And these are the things that add greater understanding and depth and resonance to charting your own and doing and understanding your own life journey, whether you do a chart for yourself or someone else. That these things add more information and understanding and nuance to the transit of it. And it explains sometimes why it seems like certain things get in the way of other things coming to fulfillment, because the challenges are those kinds of warning flags and barriers and obstacles that appear to be there to derail you, but they're not. They're there to create an understanding that this is what you're here to learn in order for you to reach the highest, best self you can be on this incarnation's destiny, all right? And whatever those numbers are based on your birth number, birthday, birth month, birth year, will be different. And then it will also be different in connection to your name, because your name has a different energy than someone else's name who maybe have the same birthday. So again, this all is a very nuanced and subtle process. But these pinnacles and challenges are another layer of information to help you navigate this existence by understanding the greater depths of the subtle energies showing up as pinnacle numbers and challenge numbers. So anyway, that's how pinnacles and challenges are calculated, how they manifest, and how they are expressed. And like every number, they can be manifested positively or negatively, depending on the attitude of the person who confronts those experiences. So I'm going to come back to the full screen right now. So that concludes this particular aspect of this, and I hope it clarifies for you a whole bunch of stuff that may offer new insight and information to the cycle and the destiny number of your life path, knowing what your pinnacles and challenges are. Anyway, that brings our video pretty much to a close. I know it takes a while to explain these things, and it's not very, very simple. But when you start understanding how these numbers work and the elegance of the synergy, and it makes its own logic. I mean, when you see them and you understand the energies and the numerical values and how they're placed in your name as your resume from your previous incarnations, and that your birthday is the code of what you need to experience now, it's this gorgeous, harmonious, and sometimes conflicting engagement of the numbers on both of those aspects of the totality of the numerical resonance of the energies of this lifetime for each individual based on your name and birthday. I know it's complex, and I just hope it brings some added insight and richness when you do your own chart, or if you do charts of other people, will just make you realize the beauty and the brilliance and the harmony and the unity of numbers and the way they express it. You see the truths manifested in your own life. That's what opened my eyes and my heart to understanding the numerology and the language of the eternal language of numbers that have brought wisdom and insight into me navigating my own life. And it's been a great blessing to me, and I hope it's a blessing to you. Anyhow, I'm going to leave it here, and I want to thank you for joining me today on another numerological video on pinnacles and challenges. I hope you'll if you haven't seen my other videos, I hope you'll check them out. There's a variety based on signs, on your sign, on destinies, on your charts, on their birth numbers and your name. Lots of different stuff to explore. I hope you'll check them out. And I hope, if you like what you heard, that you will subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and that you hit the like icon for me. That would be very important, because that helps get the word out. And that if you know other people who might be interested, please share this with your friends. Because hopefully the power and the beauty of the meaning of these numbers in your name and in your birth path will open your eyes to all possibilities of what your life can be, because it did it for me, and I hope it'll do it for you. But thank you again for watching. Again, remember, it's all in the numbers, and we only live once. at a time. So I'm optimistic. I'm Frank, and I thank you again for being here. I hope to see you next time on my channel. Thank you again. Bye-bye.